The news headlines. Governor Udom Emmanuel reconstitutes State Executive Council, charges members to translate government policies to better lives of Akwa Ibom people. Commissioners and special advisors unveil plans to help actualize government's goals. And criminal prosecution awaits civil servants who gained employment with fake certificates. Details of these and other stories in just a moment. Top of the morning, and thanks for joining us. We apologize for the mix-up earlier on. I am Samuel Udofia. Governor Udom Emmanuel yesterday reconstituted the State Executive Council and charged the members to translate government's policies to better the lives of the people. Government House Bureau Chief Colonel Eden Efreti reports that the governor had earlier also sworn in a new caretaker chairman for Ukanafon local government area as part of the event. His report.
Oath of allegiance. I do solemnly swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance. So help me God.
The new EXCO members sworn in comprised of 18 commissioners and 2 special advisors, earlier screened and cleared by the State House of Assembly. They include Mr. Paul Udofia, Architect Imeikpo, Dr. Nse Udoisien, Professor Enekpe, Mr. Idoronyen Udo, Mr. Linus Nkan, Mr. Udwak Charles Udoyang, Mr. Charles Sebastian Udo, Mr. Oman Essen, and Dr. Iniobong Essien. Others who were also sworn in as commissioners include Dr. Dominic Upong, Barrister Wemedi Mwoko, Mr. Victor Antai, Sir Monde Ebonwoko, Dr. Glory Edith, Mr. Udo Ipenyong, Mr. Akanokon, and Akparawa Ifremi Yangayen. Barrister Ekong Samson and Mrs. Ekemini Umo were sworn in as special advisors. Governor Udom Emmanuel said the new EXCO, which he described as a team of doers, is made up of reliable hands selected out of merit to chart a new path for the state through a passionate pursuit of its industrialization policy. The governor urged the new EXCO members to be conscious that as commissioners and special advisors, they are called to save the state and advised them to eschew ethnic sentiments and be transparent with sincere spirit of accountability. While thanking former members of the State Executive Council for their selfless services to the state and the permanent secretaries who ran the ministries in the absence of commissioners, Mr. Udom Emmanuel congratulated the new team, expressing confidence that they would join him to take the state to new heights.
So it was sworn in at the time that the economy is a little bit under a challenging moment. And whatever we have, we must channel it to those projects that will help every citizen of this country. And let me also be quick to remind all the commissioners and special advisors today that your constituencies and local government areas have now changed to represent the entire state. Endeavor to eschew favoritism and ethnicity in performing your duties, and surround yourself with people who will bring or add value to your common excellence.
Also sworn in was a new caretaker chairman for Ukanafon Transition Committee, Barrister Abaziono Udomfu, whose appointment follows the resignation of the former caretaker chairman. Governor Udom Emmanuel said the choice of Barrister Udomfu, who hitherto was the secretary of the caretaker committee, was his prerogative, meant to ensure continuity of the committee's already set projects. He congratulated him even as he urged the former chairman to give him necessary support to enable him to succeed.
So I stand to acknowledge the contribution of the immediate past transition chairman, Ukanafon, Barrister Udomfu. Did so well. Somebody would have loved to keep. And in this place, it's just nice and normal that I swear in the secretary to that council. Barrister Udomfu, congratulations.
Some members of the State Executive Council spoke of their commitment to the ideals of the Udom administration.
Whatever ministry I will be given, I'll make sure I do what His Excellency wants in this state and what the people of Akwa Ibom is actually looking for.
With the level that I've gone in my life, I'm trained to function anywhere. So I expect to work closely with the governor to ensure that all the visions and the goals that he has established for Akwa Ibom State are put into practice.
And I promise that whatever I did before, that I possibly could have counted for me, I'm going to double my effort. I'm going to be more productive. I'm going to do very best I can to build up the state.
So also I think one has to be ready for the job that is ahead, the task that is ahead. And I tell you that Almanison expect me to come in and change the game wherever I find myself.
Colonel Adam Efreti reporting.
With the reconstitution of the Akwa Ibom State Executive Council and subsequent swearing in of 18 commissioners and 2 special advisors, Akwa Ibom people have a lot to look forward to. Apart from the intimidating profile of the Executive Council members, each of them has some value that they hope to bring to their assigned portfolio. This much was evident in the interactions they had with the lawmakers on the floor of the House during the screening session by the enlarged House Committee of the Akwa Ibom House of Assembly. Uduaikom has the details.
For about 9 hours, the gallery of the Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly was stretched to capacity as everyone waited to hear from the 17 men and 3 women what value they will add to the governance of the state in their various ministries and bureaus. They also responded to questions and issues of concern raised by the representatives of the 26 state constituencies who sought clarifications from the Commissioner and Special Advisor designate based on their areas of expertise. Education, with special emphasis on the sustenance of the Akwa Ibom State government's free and compulsory education, came up during the exercise. How to cope with the dwindling resources.
Yes, the education, people are very lucky now that they have compulsory free education. In my time, we did not have it, so the government is doing very well. And that is why I'm worried that people are not taking it up, that people are still walking around and saying menial work and menial work.
First of all, I will encourage having summits in all the local government areas and the different sections, for instance, the primary institutions, secondary institutions, and tertiary institutions, because it can never be a solution if there is no problem.
How to cope with the dwindling resources and ensure massive development, as well as ways of boosting the state's internally generated revenue, also cropped up. Congestion of prisons in the state and reforms of the judicial system received attention, while ideas on how to improve the Akwa Ibom brand was unfolded.
The information is fingertips. Now, how we manage that information is critical. How we dispense information through those channels is critical. How we do this in a timely and efficient manner is critical. There's something of that, that's why I'm trying to do the discussion and also bringing information. I believe that can be done to significantly improve the revenue of the state.
Only Barrister Ekong Samson was not subjected to questions by the lawmakers by virtue of his antecedents as a 2-term member of the Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly. Hence, he was asked to take a bow. At the end of the exercise, the Speaker, Barrister Onofiokliu, commended the intelligence of the commissioners and special advisors, charging them to work closely with the civil service personnel for synergized functions.
The eye service, according to the issue granting clearance to the necessity for the appointment of the aforementioned persons into the office of Commissioner and Special Advisor in the service of the government of Akwa Ibom State. This is the resolution of this House.
Plenary has been adjourned to Tuesday, December 13, 2016. Uduakekong reporting.
The head of civil service, Mrs. Ekerebo Akban, says government will prosecute all staff of the State Universal Basic Education Board, SUBEB, who were found to have presented fake certificates and other credentials to government for employment. Mrs. Akban was speaking when the Committee on the Screening and Absorption of Junior Non-Teaching Staff of SUBEB submitted its report to her. She decried the recent proliferation of forged certificates in the state public service and described it as criminal. Disclosing that government was already handling the issue administratively, She said the syndicate involved had since been handed over to the law enforcement agents. Mrs. Ekerebong explained that the task of screening and absorbing staff of the State Universal Basic Education Board was part of government's efforts at repositioning the service by redeploying personnel to where work is available in a unified civil service. She commended the committee members for their dedication and the doggedness in rising to the demand of their assignment and for the timely submission of the report. Presenting the report, the chairman of the committee and permanent secretary in the Ministry of Establishments, Mrs. Stella Etowepan, said apart from issues of stagnation, promotion of staff without passing the relevant service exams, and presentation of fake certificates by some staff, the committee was also able to track a syndicate which specializes in printing of certificates. Mrs. Etowepan thanked the head of civil service for her concern for the repositioning of the service for optimal productivity through the integration of the SUBEB staff and for the opportunity given them to serve the committee. You're watching AM News. Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
Revenue is actually going down.
The law is the law. The custom has taken steps to recover these funds.
State of the Nation, high-profile political interactive. Join us every Thursday on AM45.
Still on the news, the acting chairman of the State Internal Revenue Service, Pastor Nicholas Ekarika, has been inducted as a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Taxation, the highest honor the institute confers individuals. The chairman, Uyo and District Society of the Institute, decorated Pastor Nicholas Ekarika with the paraphernalia of the fellowship in Uyo. Ayano Paul takes us there.
The chairman of Uyo and District Society of the Chartered Institute of Taxation, Mr. Gabriel Umo, said the body is saddled with the responsibility of generating revenue for government through taxes. Mr. Umo said the institute is expected to help salvage the economy by looking for measures of generating more revenue. On the induction of Pastor Ekarika, the chairman said the decision came during the national conference of the institute on the 26th of November, where the permanent secretary was recommended due to his selfless services to the state.
As you are here, sir, we want to say that we are solidly behind you as far as the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, Uyo and District Society is concerned.
Inducting Pastor Nicholas Ekarika into the institute as a fellow, a council member, Mr. Joshua Sukwa, told him that the position comes with responsibility. Mr. Sukwa said by the induction, the State Internal Revenue Service is expected to do more in generating revenue to government at the national and state levels.
About 320-something people were conferred with fellowship award, and of course, few of our sons and daughters were involved. And one of them, prominently, is no other person than the dynamic acting chairman of Internal Revenue Service.
In their goodwill messages, directors in the Internal Revenue Service, Mr. Ifeoma Iswo and Mrs. Esther Omoisien, congratulated Pastor Ekarika on the elevation and promised him the full cooperation of staff.
We, your staff and management, are ready to give you maximum support. But we know something is in the oven.
The award, the induction, carrying on for our chairman is a promotion. And we say, God is
Responding, the chairman of Internal Revenue Service, Pastor Nicholas Ekarika, said he was excited that Governor Dom Emmanuel gave him additional responsibility last year in the Internal Revenue Service, noting that the responsibility is the reason for the induction. He promised to bring his wealth of experience to bear in the Institute and to always ensure that the Akwa Ibom chapter of the Institute is at the forefront always.
With this honor, you have admitted me fully. My humble self and family were very grateful. Thank you very much for you to have come to share this fellowship with us. I believe that more fellowship award and final fellowship in heaven will belong there in Jesus' name.
Amen. Pastor Karika was decorated and presented with the certificate of the fellowship by council members. Iyageno Paul reporting.
As part of activities marking the 2016 World AIDS Day, members of the Association of Wives of Permanent Secretaries in the state visited the General Hospital Ikot-Ekpene with gifts for patients. The association was led by its president, Mrs. Imabong Nestor Odo. Once again, Iyageno Paul takes us there.
Gifts presented to the patients by the association were wheelchairs to the labor room, toiletries, and cash. Presenting the gift to the patients, the president, Mrs. Imabong Nestor Odo, said the association routinely visits the less privileged every quarter. She said the visit was also informed by the World AIDS Day slated by the United Nations to care for people living with AIDS, although she noted that the association's visit was not only for AIDS patients.
We always limit to visit the less privileged orphanage homes and places of touch so that we can share with them. So today being World AIDS Day, we decided to come and see them. And we've seen the expression and we decided to advise them to at least take their drugs so they can live long.
The public relations officer of the association, Mrs. Rosemary Basio-Moore, who addressed the hospital management and staff, said the choice of the hospital was because it is one of the oldest that still maintain the standard in the health sector. The Chief Medical Superintendent of Ikot-Ekpene General Hospital, Dr. Kodi Etiese, said the facility, graded as 250-bed hospital, has staff strength of over 200 with housemanship, pharmacists, consultants, 30 medical officers, 167 nurses, offer free services to HIV patients and implement other free healthcare services. He lauded the association for the gift, which he noted will complement government efforts in the health sector.
We are very much grateful to the Association of the Wives of Permanent Secretaries in the private states for what they have done. From what you can even see, they have picked the bills of some people, they have shown kindness and love, which grows in as a part of this season. So we are very much grateful. I mean, it's commendable.
The Chief Medical Superintendent conducted the women round the children's ward, postnatal, maternity, female, medical, surgical, gynae, antenatal, and post-antenatal wards. The women offered prayers for some patients, advised others, and paid bills to patients who were earlier discharged but had no money to clear their bills. Some of the beneficiaries thanked the association for the gesture, praying God to bless the members. Iyageno Paul reporting.
It will be 4 days of praise, Bible-based teachings and prayers as the faithful of the Eket Field of the Apostolic Church gather for their annual convention. The event, the 15th in the field, which is ongoing, will end on Sunday, December 4, 2016. It has as its theme, "Unto us a son is given," drawn from Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6. Convened by the National President of the Apostolic Church Nigeria, Pastor G.O. Odutola, the convention will feature the Apostolic Church Youth Evangelical Movement Rally, healing meetings, and witness rally. A statement jointly endorsed by the hosts, Eket Field Superintendent Apostle U.S. Fupong, And the General Secretary of the Central Planning Committee, Pastor S.T. Inyang, has invited members of the church and others to attend the convention, which will ensure deliverance and revival of the spirit, soul, and body. The final rites of passage of the late Deaconess Elizabeth Ayo Egbe will hold tomorrow, Saturday, 3rd December 2016. A statement by a son of the deceased, Mr. Akwawo Ayo Egbe, on behalf of the family, said the funeral ceremony is billed for 10 o'clock in the morning at the Christ the King Primary School grounds, Wellington Basiwe, Uyo. The rites, to be conducted by the Brotherhood of the Cross and Star, will start with a lying in state at the family compound number 21, Tam Street, Uyo. The late Madame Elizabeth Egbe, a deaconess in the Brotherhood of the Cross and Star, was a career teacher and taught in many schools across the state before retirement. The late Madame Elizabeth Ayo Egbe is survived by 5 children, including Mrs. Anne Emmanuel Enoidem, Akwawo Ayo Egbe, Mrs. Emma Ime Umana, Mbotidem Ayo Egbe, and Idomasid Ayo Egbe. Others are 2 sons-in-law, Barrister Emmanuel Enoidem and Engineer Ime John Umana. The statement invites the political class, the business community, members of the Nigerian Union of Teachers and Nigerian Union of Pensioners and sympathizers to attend the funeral. President Muhammadu Buhari set to present 2017 appropriation bill to the National Assembly, and China commences moves to build a life-size replica of the doomed ship Titanic. Stay with Samuel Ayara for these and other stories in our national and international news.
The Federal Executive Council has approved a 7.2 trillion naira budget for 2017 during its meeting on Wednesday. According to President Muhammadu Buhari, who presented the proposed appropriation bill, the document will soon be laid before the National Assembly. The approval of the budget, which is about 24% higher than the 2016 budget, was confirmed by the Minister of Budget and National Planning, Udoma Udoma. On the Medium-Term Expenditure Framework, MTEF, and Fiscal Sustainability paper submitted by the President, Udoma disagreed with the Senate's position that the document was empty. The lifeless body of a stowaway was on Wednesday found in the main wheel well of one of Eric A's A330-200 aircraft at the Oliver Tambo International Airport, Johannesburg, South Africa. The airline confirmed the incident in a statement by its communications manager, Ola Adebanji, who said the aircraft operated the scheduled Lagos to Johannesburg flight that departed the Murtala Mohammed International Airport at 3:55 p.m. He said engineers of South African Airways Technical Facilities, where the aircraft was scheduled for a routine maintenance check, discovered the body of the stowaway during the inspection phase. Meanwhile, a full-scale investigation has been launched to determine how the stowaway found his way into the aircraft's wheel well. And on the foreign scene, China is building a life-size replica of the doomed RMS Titanic in a landlocked county more than 120 kilometers from the sea. When completed, the replica ship will measure 269 meters long by 28 meters wide and will feature reproductions of the original Titanic features, including a ballroom, theater, swimming pool, and rooms. The total cost of the ship project, which is believed would not sink, is expected to run up to $150 million, according to Chinese state news agency. Super rap act Kanye West is reportedly back home more than a week after he was admitted to hospital with exhaustion. According to multiple reports, the rapper left UCLA Medical Center in Los Angeles with wife Kim Kardashian and his doctor Michael Fazan. The Los Angeles Police Department responded to a report of a disturbance last week, but later said it was a medical emergency. He was admitted a day after he cancelled his St. Pablo tour after a series of rants on the stage.
And just before we go, the top stories. Governor Domi Manuel yesterday reconstituted the State Executive Council and charged the members to translate government's policies to better the lives of the people. The head of civil service, Mrs. Ekerebong Akpan, also says government will prosecute all staff of the State Universal Basic Education Board, SUBE, who were found to have presented fake certificates and other credentials to government for employment. Mrs. Akpan was speaking when the Committee on the Screening and Absorption of Junior Non-Teaching Staff of SUBE submitted its report to her. That's our package this morning. You can also watch AKBC TV News online by logging on to akbconline.org or follow us on Twitter at AKBC45 or on Facebook at AKBC Channel 45. Thanks for watching and have a great morning.